is tea time. Yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, good morning and welcome to Tea Time. That's right, we are back. It is September 28th. We are at the end of September. So today is my last three guests for September 2023. And then we're jumping into October. Oh my goodness, like I can't believe that we're already going into October. This year has just flown by. I have the incredible Marc Joseph, also known as Gramps Jeffries. He is also the co-founder of babyboomers.org. He's an author, he's a grandpa, he's all of that. And we're going to spill good, strong TEA this morning with all of you guys out there. So grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your breakfast, because it's deeply important that we all have our breakfast each and every morning. Without a good breakfast, we can't get started. Our brains just don't want to click right. So let's get those breakfasts in there. For all of you people out there that would like to share this tea time, go ahead and share this tea time. Subscribe to the channel. Check out Miss Liz's website, www.misslizsteatime.com, and you can see this podcast there as well. If you're watching a replay, please push hashtag replay and do all those good stuff. And let's get this tea time out there. We got the wrong link there, Miss Liz. Here we go. Miss Liz, your breakfast is not kicked in yet. There we go. So let me give you a little bit about who Marc Joseph is and the disclaimer, all that good stuff. And then we're going to get Marc in here and we're going to sit and spill some TEA with you this morning. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time Live Show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It's significant to note that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all tea times this year are done on Thursday, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. That's right, we do 3 shows in one day. Now, a little bit about my guest. Well, who is Marc Joseph? Well, Marc Joseph is also known as Gramps Jeffries. He's written children's books. I Don't Want to Turn 3 explores what goes through a toddler's mind, what parents are so desperate to understand. It is based on the true experience he has had with his 6 grandchildren that were born, two each to his 3 millennium daughters. Gramps Jeffries is the pen name for Marc Joseph, whose first book, The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart, was written to help entrepreneurs and small businesses compete against the big guys. Grams is currently the co-founder of the new site www.babyboomers.org, which pulls together news and resources for the baby boomer community. The one thing baby boomers have in common is a connected, shared experience. Our generation has interests in travels, grandparenting, healthy eating, finance, retirement, caregiving, healthcare, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, fitness, pickleball. We all know Miss Liz likes pickleball, volunteering, giving back, and a legacy we will leave. Grams and his lovely wife Kathy live in Scottsdale, Arizona, where two of his grandchildren live. Two more live in Austin, Texas, and two in Orlando, Florida. For Grams, Mark Joseph's full bio, check out Mrs.'s Facebook page. And let me get Mark in here so we can spill some tea with you this morning. Good morning, Mark.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate being here.
And if anybody would like to know more on baby boomers, go and check out their website. It is going to be across the screen during our conversation, and I'll be popping up a bunch of other different links. So, Mark, let's get started. Like I do this with everyone out there. Who were you as a little guy, and who are you now?
Well, when I was a little guy, I was joined in a small town growing up in Ohio, and I was surrounded by my family. My grandmother lived down the street. My uncle lived up the block. And so I was raised, by a whole family, but which is completely different than today. Because when you think about it, and when you were introducing me, you say my family's all over the country. I don't think I'm alone anymore. We are where I was growing up. I was protected by our whole family. Now, our biggest challenge, one of them, is how do you stay in contact with your family when you got them scattered all over North America?
That you make a good point there. It is hard to stay connected now.
Yeah. So what do you do? What do you do to stay connected? Well, that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book. The book is I Don't Want to Turn 3. It's a children's book. It's a true story, as you were saying, about my 6 grandkids. But I was able to write it because during the pandemic, I had all 6 of them here for a while. So I had a chance to kind of look at them and see what they did. What's interesting about little kids is all 6 of them have different personalities. The one thing that they do have in common is a sense of curiosity, and how excited they do get when they do accomplish something. Watching them grow year to year and how they interact with each other, really is the basis for this book. As you mentioned, what goes through toddlers' minds that parents have to understand. As a baby boomer trying to understand the world, how it's evolved since I was 3 years old, it is also kind of part of the story. My parents didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't have remotes. I was my dad's remote. He said, "Son, go change the channel." So the generations, parents' definition of discipline is quite different from parents of today. What is it better the way kids are growing up today than when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s? I'll kind of let your audience answer that question. Are we treating our kids any better than we were treated? So I wrote this book in honor of these grandkids because it is a true story. And it's really the theme of the book is at what age do you begin to take responsibility for your actions? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13 years old? Is it 23 years old? I mean, I know plenty of baby boomers that are 63 years old that still don't take responsibility for their actions. So that's kind of where I got into this book and why I wrote it.
So, Mark, where did you get the title?
I was watching these kids, and we were talking about Jordan was having his 3rd birthday party, and he looks up to me. He says, I really don't know if I want to turn 3. Yeah. What's interesting is the oldest, my grandkids, Olivia, who was 8 at the time, and she just turned 10. She says, Gramps, and she told me this just a couple weeks ago. She says, Gramps, I don't know if I really want to turn 10. I said, well, why don't you want to turn 10? She says, well, I got to start thinking about applying for college. I said, come on, you're 10 years old. Why are you worried about applying for college now? And she says, and I got to start thinking about, I'm going to be driving a car. I don't know if I really want to drive a car. So but when you think about it, I don't want to turn 3. I don't want to turn 10. I don't want to turn 21. I don't want to turn 70, So every year you're faced with those decisions with what you've already got behind you and what's going to be in front of you. So that's one of the reasons that the book is titled "I Don't Want to Turn 3."
I like the title. I really like it because it takes them out. We call them terrible twos. I don't know why they call them terrible twos. I think it's the twos are just where they're always touching everything, right? They're really, really curious at 2. So, I don't know where that saying came from, terrible twos, but I think 2 is a really curious age. Like they're just asking a lot of questions and that. So, Marc, I want to get into, how do you feel about being a grandpa?
Oh, it's great. It's great. When you think about it, that we're lucky that we were around. When I was a kid, my grandparents died when they were in the early 60s. So they didn't have a chance to really experience the things that I'm going through right now. And when you think about it, the grandparents add a whole different perspective to what a child learns. It just gives them. But I got to tell you, one of the reasons that we started babyboomer.org is that as I was going around and talking about the book and talking to grandparents, too many grandparents just don't care anymore. There are 30% of grandparents are called remote. Okay, that's 1 out of every 3 of us. In other words, there were 3 of us sitting here on the chairs. 1 out of 3 of us, are just not involved in the raising of our grandkids. Remote was considered that, you may show up for a birthday party, maybe you see them at Christmas, but that's it. You're really not involved in the raising of your grandkids. And that's a shame. But think about it. Why aren't us as a generation, involved in raising our grandkids like we should? That's, again, 30% of us just aren't. And it could be because we said, hey, listen, I raised great kids, let them raise their kids. I'm going to go play pickleball. I know you like pickleball. So
I've learned so much about pickleball from Jeff Rossi. I even went to my community here to see if I could play. I'm too young to play pickleball, but believe me, when I reach that age, I'm going to be going to play pickleball.
Well, we have a whole section on babyboomer.org on pickleball. So it's got experts, it's got articles. So make sure when you get a chance, you take a look at our pickleball section. It'll teach you. It'll teach you very quickly on what you need to do. But think about grandparents today. Okay, what causes us? What causes this whole generation of baby boomers, with a third of us not getting involved in raising these kids? Well, it could be our relationship that happens with our own kids. We may not have liked the spouse our child married. That causes problems. The divides up, and we may be giving our children unsolicited advice. With us baby boomers, we think we know it all. So we may be telling them, this is what you need to do, and they say, hey, I'm an adult now. You don't have to treat me like a kid anymore. We may be disrespecting the boundaries. So you may just all of a sudden show up at their house. They don't want that. We've got to respect that for that. So a lot of this comes the relationship that we have developed with our own kids and how they view us dealing with them. Grandparents that get pushed away for all kinds of reasons. We may be undermining the parents' authority. That the parents are teaching their kids one thing, we don't agree with it. And so we're challenging the values and the family structure. That pushes us away from our grandkids. We may, tendency that we play favorites. Oh, now I got 6 grandkids. I have a favorite, but I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah, we're not falling for that one.
Yeah, I might even tell my wife who it is. Because you can't play favorites. We may be manipulating these siblings. We as grandparents have transactional control. It'd be giving them money and gifts and vacations. That causes issues between us and our kids. We, as we're getting older, we may have an overall lack of empathy. and able to understand or have the patience to share the feelings of one another. And this is so crucial for these little kids. I mean, they'll cry I'm 3 and 4 and 5 years old. They just cry. We got to have some empathy and understand what's going on with them. And then, we may demand too much from a grandkid to respect us and comply with what we say. So there's all kinds of reasons why this happens. And we need to think as grandparents, how do we overcome this? Because when you think about grandkids of today, this is the greatest generation that we've ever produced. When you think about these kids 1 to 10 years old, as soon as they come out of the womb, they're on the internet. They got their cell phones. They are so much smarter at a younger age than we ever were. I mean, I didn't get on the internet till I was 40 years old. Here you got kids, 1, 2, 3. If I want something on my phone, I ask one of my grandkids to fix it. We've got this huge generation that's so much smarter than we ever were. And we as grandparents have to round that out. We got to make sure they're outside exercising. We got to make sure that they've got alternatives to being on the internet all day or on their phone all day. And that's why more than ever, our generation has got to be involved in raising these grandkids. And that's one of our missions. It's one of the reasons we started babyboomer.org, is to make sure that we provide all the information that we all need to be better and help educate the younger generation so that they will be better than we ever were.
You make some really good points there, Mark, because we aren't involved enough, and I'm the same way. My grandbabies are going to be 3, and the things that she does on her little iPad, I'm just like, wow, how does she know how to do this? I'm just like, hey, you're just learning how to talk, kid, and you already know how to do this. And she knows how to shut the phone off when she's making a call to me and everything. Like if she knows how to work it all, and I'm just like, wow. Technology, I think, has a big roadblock for grandparents as well, because the miscommunication is there now, where when we grew up, when our grandparents spoke to us, we didn't have an iPad or a phone in our hand. We actually had to look at our grandparents and say yes and no, now it's, can you put the pad down, and then it's a fit, and then but we have to really get involved. We really have to start communicating. And I'm glad that you brought up the stats and all of that, because it's deeply important that all of us grandparents out there, we set an example as well, and we get involved, and ask the questions. What is connecting these kids to these certain games or technology, or, so Mark, what have you learned about your grandkids that has surprised you from growing up from your grandparents?
Well, one thing that I definitely learned is that we have got to take the time in reading these kids' books. Again, they are so involved on the internet. And again, it depends how much their parents left them to be on the internet. But let parents and grandparents never forget that we are the role models. Our kids imitate us. So if they see me on my cell phone all day long, they're going to be on their cell phone all day. If they see me watching television all night long, that's they're going to be. So we are the role models, and we have got to make sure that we expose them to all kinds of things beyond what they and their friends talk about. So going back to we were talking about reading books, and obviously I want everybody to buy and read my book, but there's 100 other great books out there, to read it and be with children. Because if you step back and think about it, as a grandparent, what are these benefits of reading a book with a kid? Well, one of the benefits is that it helps bond you as a grandparent with your grandchild. So, if you just picture the 3 or 4 or 5-year-olds sitting on your lap, and you're just a nice time to be spending together. The bonding process of just sitting there and reading to them or reading with them, it's just so important. It supports listening skills. Now, you and I both know at our ages that listening skills is the best skill we can have. You as a podcaster, you as a communicator. you have to listen to everything going on around for you so you can ask the right questions. I got to listen so I can build a better site. So we know that listening skills is the best skill they can have. So just reading to your child for 20 minutes a night, requires them to listen. And that's a skill that they can take on, for the rest of their lives. Reading to kids helps with the cognitive and language development. When you sit there and you read a word and they don't understand it, gives you a chance to explain, what does it mean? How does it mean? I mean, there's plenty of these words and books I don't understand. I got to look up. So it just helps with the development of language, and it gives you just a nice, simple way to do that. And another reason is attention span. These 2 and 3 and 4 year olds, they bounce off the wall all day long. You got them sitting in your lap. It gives them key concentration, self-discipline skills. So I encourage all of your listeners, please take the time to become part of the routine and make sure that you're reading, through the stories to kids, because it's just a great way to help balance everything else that they're learning.
Mark, I want to get into baby boomers, because on baby boomers, you have a list of good books for parents and grandparents to go out and get them. Baby boomers has so much good information there. There's some incredible podcasts there. There's, you have a flavor for everyone out there to get involved, get connected. I really love the flow of baby boomers, the website, because you have the podcast, you have the articles, you have the books, you have the interviews. You have a little bit for everybody. And it's also a good place where you can bond with your grandchildren as well. Get them to check out the articles, check out, oh, well, this is what grandma and grandpa used to do 20 years ago. And try some recipes, try cooking with your grandkids. There's incredible things. But I want to get onto the baby boomers, Mark. Why did you create it that way, so that you could collaborate with all these people?
Well, the baby boomer generation is as diverse as any generation before and after us. When you think about all the tremendous amount of division in politics, division in religion, division in ideas. But like you said earlier, when you're introducing me, the one thing the baby boomers have in common is a connected shared experience, a shared experience that we all grew up. Now, when we were growing up here, where I'm in, we had 3 television stations and we all had landlines. That's how we got our information. We all got the same information. So when you think about it, when we were growing up, we were here for all the Kennedy assassinations and Martin Luther King's assassination. We were here on the landing of the moon. When our generation is when birth control became widespread. That's all part of our history. We were here for Vietnam, Kent State, riots in the streets. But the things, we have in common are the music, Elvis, Beatles, Beach Boys, Three Dog Night, Supremes, Association. That's a common thing we all have. The movies, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Jaws, maybe most of the Spielberg movies, Animal House, Star Wars, The Godfather. This brings us all together. So that is one reason we created the site, because not only do we have a history together, but we also have, so that's looking at the past, but we also have what's going on today. We offer resources for retirement and finance and travel, and then also dealing with the more challenging things of our generation, like you were talking about technology. Okay, we got a big section on technology. What do you do? How do you use your iPhone? How do you communicate with your other people in the family? And all the health issues that we're facing, whether it's like you mentioned, dementia or Alzheimer's. We pulled together in this one spot all this information for our generation. And what's interesting, when we built this site, we had thought that the audience was going to be baby boomers. But you're absolutely right. What's happened is the baby boomer kids and grandkids are trying to figure out the parents. Who is this crazy generation called baby boomers? So they're spending time on our site too. So that is why we created this.
So, Mark, do you have any recipes on the site? I haven't noticed any.
That's a great idea. I think let's create a whole new session. Yeah, because you're absolutely right. It's good for to cook with your kids. Like my wife cooks with I cooked with our kids this weekend, making all kinds of fun things. Banana bread's what they made. So, but they all learned. What do you do with old bananas? Here you go. Get in the bread. Uh, but yes, so we've got that's a good thing. I'll make sure we get back in today and start adding recipes. Good idea. Thank you.
Well, a lot of grandparents can bring in their old recipes that were from generations before that, right? Like the great grandparents and the great great grandparents, and that, and then children are like, oh, well, why do you add that? And why do you add that? Like, there's a lot of questions when it comes to cooking. Uh, and with my little granddaughter is she just likes to be the helper. She likes to put the spoon, like she's going to be 3, and she likes to put the pudding into the cups, and she likes to add the egg, and she thinks it's funny that the egg breaks, like she giggles. And there's so much that we can be doing with our grandkids, uh, you know, to just open the minds and get them to talk.
Yeah, I'm known with my 3 and 4 years old. We make cheese eggs together. So they grab the eggs, they break them. They get so excited because they can crack the eggs. They put the cheese in, and they stir it up. That's one of the bonding things that we have. Is they come over and they said, "Are we gonna make cheese eggs today?"
Uh, we seem to forget like the little things, right? Just make us bond. Reading stories together, cooking together, uh, you know, watching a movie together, a good Disney movie. Or so, Mark, I want to get into. I also found this book. Let me find the link. I want to talk to you a little bit about this. I want to jump a little. You wrote a book about Walmart, but I also found when I was doing my homework, the dollar. You have something with the dollar. Where is it?
Yeah,
I'm looking for it.
in my previous life, I was in the business world, and one of the books I wrote was "The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart." And the reason I wrote this book is the company that when I started and took public, we became the premier business-to-business site on the internet where we sold in case quantity to small businesses all around the world, shipping to all 50 states around 40 foreign countries. Our customer base were the moms and the pops who are surviving, thriving as the chains. So we were in the wholesale and closeout business to give you a chance to really, really grow your business. And I found that our customers were saying, "What do you do here? How do you do this?" So that's why I wrote this book, "The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart," because it's 15 chapters. It's a step-by-step guide on becoming an entrepreneur and opening up a business. So one chapter is devoted to, how do you find your location? Another for how do you hire people? Where do you find the best people? Another chapter is finding the merchandise you need. Another chapter is on marketing, both on the internet and also in mainstream. And the last chapter is the exit strategy. Okay, once you've done all this, what do you do with it? So that's what that book is all about. It's because, when you think about entrepreneurs, a lot of us are entrepreneurs. Many of us want to be entrepreneurs, but it's a scary situation because 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Think about that. I was concerned about 1 out of 3 grandparents not getting involved. Think about 50% of businesses fail. And so there's all kinds of reasons why businesses fail. But the main reasons, 42% of businesses fail because they don't have the right market or the right product or the right service for what they think they have. You as an entrepreneur may think that you have invented the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if you're the only one that wants it, you're going to lose. So you've always got to do your research. You got to make sure that if you're opening up a business, that there's a demand for your product. I learned that pretty well early on because I used to be a buyer for department stores, and there were things that I personally liked, but you had to step away and say, what does our customer want? What are they looking for? But that's why 42% of businesses fail. Another 29% fail because they don't have enough money to go into opening a business. So if you're thinking about opening a business, you got to say to yourself, let's assume I get no sales for 6 months. What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? So you've got to make sure that you have enough capital and cash on hand to build the business, because it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So that's why 29% of businesses fail, because they have a great idea, but they don't have enough money to tell everybody else what a great idea it is. And then 25% of the businesses fail because the entrepreneur has very poor communications, and they're not building a team around them. Now, as an entrepreneur, and we'll just talk about me personally, you know, I I love marketing and sales, but I don't like spreadsheets. I don't like accounting. If you stick me in a room for 8 hours with a spreadsheet, I will go absolutely nuts. So I had to make sure that I have to find people that are smarter than I am in areas that they have a passion for, and let them hire them, find them. So, and us entrepreneurs, we got big egos. So it's many times it's tough for us to say, okay, I got to find somebody smarter than me, but you've got to do that. And then you've got to be able to communicate what your idea is and what your business is so that everybody understands. So, you know, that's why half of these businesses fail. If you can step back and say, okay, I'm going to avoid those things, then hopefully you got a better chance of surviving.
So, Mark, we have a couple questions here for you. Being an entrepreneur, what age do you think is the earliest age to start to become an entrepreneur, and what age is the oldest? I guess they're trying to see if there's an age range on being an entrepreneur.
The oldest, there is no age range. So step back a second. Let's assume that you had a great job and you decided you're going to retire, but you've always had a passion for something, whether it's a hobby or something. And, so even if you've got that passion and you think you can make it work, if you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you want to start your business, do it. That's one of the great things about and the people that go into retirement is they may have the time to do something that they've wanted to do since they were 20 years old. So there is no limit on how old. And again, there is no limit on how young. Go to TikTok. See these 7, 8-year, 12-year-old, 11, look what they're doing. I mean, you come from the nonprofit world. A lot of people or little kids are trying to help out in the nonprofits, to raise money, to create. And so there really isn't any. It just becomes, what is your passion? Passion is it drives a lot of things. And, you can't do anything unless you have a passion for it. You're not going to be successful unless you really, passion means what you're doing. You're not viewing it as a job. You're doing it as a life's work. And so if you can have that passion when you're 7 years old or 70 years old. And so just go for it. If that's what you want to do, we're only here for a limited amount of time. And if you got a great idea, do it.
So we have another question for you, Mark. It's you speak of the entrepreneur ego. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, entrepreneurs obviously think that they've got the greatest idea, so they're going to implement that. Um, you know, many entrepreneurs think they're the smartest guy in the room. Okay, that's the ego. I mean, step around and see who's running a lot of these bigger corporations. They all think that they're pretty smart guys or gals, because half of entrepreneurs, it's 50-50, women and men. So it's all so but I think that's part of being an entrepreneur. You're saying, I got a great idea, I'm going to implement it, nobody's going to get in my way. So that's part of the ego. And then plus you got to sell whatever idea you have. So you really got to believe, and it goes back to the word passion. What is your passion? You believe that this is the right thing to do.
Well, I think it's a good time, Mark, to ask you what your T is. So if I ask you what your T is, and I ask you for 3 words, because you keep giving me passion, so I know you want to give me a couple other words here. So what 3 words would you give me today?
Leaving a legacy.
And what does that mean for you?
That means that, when we die, we can't take anything with us. I mean, it doesn't matter how wealthy you are or how many houses you have or how many cars you have. You can't take that with you. What is it that you're going to leave behind that that not only your kids will remember, but your grandkids will remember, and they'll be talking about it during the next generation. That's leaving your legacy. And leaving your legacy really is, how are you influencing the younger generation? You know, we talked about reading. Why? Think about, step back a second. I am sure that you can have memories of what something your grandparents did. Do you have any memories of what your grandparents did for you?
For me, it was the farm. It was, my grandpa was a big analogy. Like, he would give us a log, like wood, like piling the wood. And that was the time he would give us life lessons. He would say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 logs. What are you going to do with these 3 logs? Well, we're going to go put them over there. No, if I give you 3 logs, he kind of like did math with us. When we went fishing, he would talk to us about the fish, on how the fish, like how they fed us, how they keep us. So there was always a lesson in the conversation with my grandpa. And when my grandma was cooking, it was teaching me how to cook, how to make good food for everybody. Taste your food, make sure that you would eat it before you would serve it to somebody else. The tea is something I got from my grandma. So, from another grandma, it was just the life lessons that I got from my grandparents and the conversations.
Talking about life lessons. Let's go back to reading books again, because I'm an author. I love books, but I can see how it influences my grandchildren. You know, think about the life lessons you can teach your kids by reading books. I mean, before you even start reading the book, the first thing you should ask your child is, what do you think is going to happen in this book? Start to get them thinking. That's a life lesson that you can teach them. What do you let them tell you what they think is going to happen in the book? While you're reading the book to them, who are the characters in this book? Where is the setting in this book? And does anything in this book sound familiar to you? Can you relate to it? Let them keep thinking. And then when you're done, obviously, what was your favorite part of this book and why? The one thing that the legacy that we can leave is that it's necessary to teach your children how to think, not what to think. They're going to learn what to think as they grow older. You need to teach them how to think, just like your grandfather was teaching you how to think about the wood and the fish. That's what he was doing, and that's his legacy. If that helped influence you on how to think through things to become a better person, then that's the legacy that he left you.
Yeah. Oh, he left a lot of good memories and a lot of things to really step back. That's what I got from all of my grandparents on both sides, my mom and my dad, was just take a step back, you know, slow down a little, because sometimes we're so hyper, right? We're these little hyper kids and we're just like, slow down. Let's have a cup of tea. Let's relax, and let's have a conversation. But growing up, I don't remember reading too many books with my grandparents. I wish that they would have done that, because there's so much that you're opening up here, Mark, is that we can make them think, right, through storytelling. That was something I never got, was reading books with my grandparents. I wish I would have. They always had books, and they were always like, go read a book, but they never sat down and read a book with me. So
Well, when you think about what you're just talking about, is that your grandparents, we should be teaching our grandkids the same thing that your grandparents taught you. That's a generational thing. And when you step aside, what are parents' responsibility in today's world? What are they responsible for? In today's world of instant information, we've been talking about that, uncertainty, cruelty, differences in ideas. What is their role? Obviously parents are there to provide their children with food and clothing, a place to live. They're also their responsibility is to have the financial support, the medical care, all the opportunities to receive an education. That's what parents are there for. How to protect their children, from harm, and provide them a safe environment, especially with what's going on in schools today. Parents are the most influential people in our children's lives. I mean, we grandparents may think they are, but they're not. It's the parents. They have more power to bring out the good qualities of these kids, and get them, they're the ones that are supposed to teach these kids honesty, responsibility, kindness. Think about if everybody had kindness in this world, how different it would be. Independence, respect. They're the ones that are supposed to teach them positive thinking. How do you look at different problems and evaluate creativity? It's important for this latest and greatest generation to be creative. I mean, I got a couple of my grandkids that they love drawing, and I see what they draw. I can't even draw a straight line. I don't know where they got that, but they are much better than I ever was at that kind of stuff. And it's up to parents, teach them healthy eating, and obviously the exercise. Get out there and make sure you stay in shape. But an important thing that parents can teach them, and this is one thing that grandparents can teach them too, is the success can be learned from failure. When you think about us, the only reason the grandparents are much smarter today than they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 50 years ago is each decade we make a lot more mistakes. And so we learn from those mistakes. So that by the time you get in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you got all this experience and we learn from failure. So we got to make sure our children know that that's okay. But the most important thing that parents have to teach their kids is how to have fun. In this crazy world of ours, just step back and have fun. So that's, we got to make sure that, that our parents' responsibility in today's world, and we as grandparents just complement that. It's really the parents' responsibility to make all that happen, but we just need to reinforce that too.
So, Mark, we have a question here. This comes from another grandpa. So, from grandpa to grandpa, what lessons have you taught your grandchildren?
Well, the interesting thing about teaching grandchildren is that you've got to be part of their life. Okay, these 2, 3, 4-year-olds are not going to pick up the phone and call you. That doesn't happen. You've got to be able to influence that. So I'll tell you one thing that we did to keep in touch, because as you mentioned, I've got not only kids here in town with us, but we got kids in Texas and kids in Florida. Out of sight, out of mind. So, but the one thing that I learned as a grandparent pretty early is, for some reason, for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, they all love dinosaurs. Now, which is the crazy thing, that if I talk to my 3-year-old, start talking dinosaurs, they can tell me the names of every kind of dinosaur. I mean, they got these long names. I know dinosaurs are small, medium, and large. They know the names of dinosaurs. They can tell me who they fight with, who they play with, if they eat meat. They understand all this. In fact, when I took my kids to the playground a couple of weeks ago, they had some other kids their age, and all of a sudden they started talking dinosaurs. So dinosaurs is the international language of little kids. They all understand these things. So we learned that. And I had all my kids here for about 6 weeks, and then the 4 of them went back to Texas and Orlando. And so we figured, how are we going to communicate them? What is it going to be that we can be part of their routine? Because, all these kids have a routine where they take their bath, they read their book, and they go to bed. That's the routine they have. So we figured that we were going to we had a half a dozen dinosaurs we keep around the house for the kids, that every night we were going to have the dinosaurs do something different. So, for instance, one night we had all the dinosaurs in the refrigerator eating blueberries. Another night they were by the sink with grandma washing dishes, and they had the soap on their noses. Another night they were playing the piano. Another night they were walking up the steps. So we put together 50 different nights where the dinosaurs did something different every night. So what happened is we were able to become part of the routine of these kids that were near us. They would take the bath, read the books, and they said, "What are the dinosaurs doing tonight? What are the dinosaurs doing tonight? Let's call Gramps." So they would call on my wife's iPhone so that we could do FaceTime. And they would say, "Where's Gramps? Where's Gramps? What are the dinosaurs doing tonight?" So that was our way of staying and keeping in contact with them. And I'm sure your listeners have other things that they've noticed that they can help with influencing their children, so that you have that contact. Because again, when I was growing up, I had everybody living in the same area, so I didn't have to worry about that. But now we have to make extra effort to be an influencer in these kids' lives.
We have a comment here. It says, "Wow, thanks for the dinosaur tip." But it is so true, because my little one just went to dinosaurs, and she was talking about the dinosaurs. She was like, "Rrr," and I was like, because she's gonna be 3, and but I mean, like, they know how to say these names. Like, I have trouble saying some of these names. I'm like, how do you know these things? I even do that with my children. My children come to me with stuff, and I'm like, how did you know about this? Like, where did you learn this? Like, I didn't teach you. Like, how did you get this? Like, and you brought something really important, Mark, is dishes, doing dishes together. That's a good time to bond. Put the bubbles in, put the soap in, let them wash the Tupperware, if they're little. Just get involved. And I think that's what I really like about being a part of your community as well. Because Miss Liz, you can find Miss Liz on Baby Boomers. What I like, Mark, is when you reached out to me, it was like, absolutely, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to collaborate. This is where I need to connect, because there's so much community and experiences there that we learn from each other. Like, we just learned about dinosaurs. Like, this other grandpa is like, oh, thanks for the tip. Like, this is what we need. We need tips. We need tools. We need to have ways that we can communicate, and Baby Boomers has it all. Like, I'm telling you guys. And Mark's gonna work on getting recipes, so anybody that wants recipes, like, that's gonna go up there, so keep an eye for that. Mark, I want to talk about I want to get back to the book. So have you read your book to your grandkids?
Yes. In fact, last week, one of my grandkids came to me. She's 4 years old. She says, "That's our family book." What was interesting about 3 weeks ago, the oldest, Olivia, she grabbed the book because they had 4 of them spending the night over here babysitting, as grandparents often do. And she grabbed the book, and she didn't know I was watching them. And she grabbed her 2 younger cousins, and they went underneath my desk, and she opened up the book, and she started reading to them, because she's 10, so she could read the book. And, Jackson says, "That's me. That's a picture of me," because it's all based on a true story. And Levi says, "Yeah, that's me in the bathtub." So, on the book, all the pictures are pictures I took. Like, these are the kids in the bathtub. And then I sent it to a illustrator to turn it into more cartoonish looking. And so yes, they like it. In fact, the 4-year-old is going to preschool, and I dropped her off a couple of days ago to go to preschool, and the teacher asked me if I could read the book to the kids at the preschool, and I said, sure, I'd love to do that. And so she asked me last night. She says, "Gramps, we should practice reading the books so that we go to my school, everybody can see it." I said, sure. So yes, yeah, I do read to her.
So do you have any works of writing another book?
Well, I don't want to turn 3. The book I'm working on now is I don't want to turn 4. I don't want to turn 10. I don't want to turn 21. I don't want to turn 70. You think about that, it all along the line, what does the future hold? Why don't we want to go and turn the next year age? So that's my next book, is I don't want to turn 4.
So when should we look for that one?
Oh, it'll be probably another 3 to 4 months.
Oh, awesome. So in the new year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. You'll have to keep me updated for that one. So, Mark, what message would you like to give out there to all the grandparents that are listening today?
When you think about how we interact with our children and our grandkids, there's one question we should ask them, and we should do this every day. And, like, I had dinner with a couple of my grandkids last night. And so during the dinner, we went through and we asked, how was your day today? What was the most exciting part of your day? That's part of every family. You should do that. But another question we should be asking them at dinner time is, what did you do today that was nice to someone else? Well, think about that. Now, the first time you ask that to a child who's 3 or 4 years old, they're going to look at you and say, "What are you talking about?" I'm worried about myself. I'm not worried about anybody else. But if you start to, explain, what did you do today that was nice to someone else? Did you open up the door? Let's let somebody in, hold the door for them. Did you walk an old lady across the street? What did you do today? If you ask that to your child or your grandchild every single day, then by the 3rd or 4th day, they're going to come up with something that they did nice to somebody else. And so can you imagine in this world, in North America, that if we had everyone saying that, asking that of this latest generation, what did you do nice to someone else today? By the time they get in their 20s and 30s, our whole society would change. We would all have a whole different attitude on how we treat each other. So if I was to say one thing is, and then going back to, you asked me, what is my T? It's leaving a legacy. If we can teach our children and grandchildren that we need to be nice to someone today, can you imagine how that would change this world?
I like that you said teach our children, because teach our grandchildren, teach our children, teach our great grandchildren, because there are great grandparents out there and great great grandparents out there, and talk about generational things. Bring up the generational side, the history, and see how you can compare it. Uh, I also have another question here for you, Mark. Is okay. Let me put that. So you mentioned that you have three millennium daughters. For anyone that doesn't know what a millennium is, could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, they're in their late 30s, and one of them just turned 40. So that's the age group for that.
So where did the names come from for all of the different generations?
Well, the baby boomer generation are people that were born between 1946 and 1964. So they're now, 59 to 77 years old. It's pretty much 2 decades. We came from, because, and our parents are known as the greatest generation. I mean, because that generation had to deal with the Depression and working through the 30s, and then they had to deal with war. That generation, the greatest generation, our parents' generation, saved democracy, saved the world. That's why they are the greatest generation. Well, they came home and they had just saved the world, and we just had this boom. And these were the baby boomers, and that's where we came from. And then the other generations came off of that. But that's why we're known as the baby boomers, because it's a huge. There's 76.4 million boomers, right now here in the U.S. And it kind of stays the same number because the immigrants that are baby boomers are coming into to the country. So that's a big number. They hold here in the U.S. It holds 53% of the wealth. 70% of the disposable income. You got the 12 million baby boomers still own businesses. Think about that. That's 60% of small businesses are still owned by baby boomers. And when we pass on, we're going to be leaving our kids $30 trillion. They're gonna be a very wealthy generation after we're gone. So that's what all the baby boomers are all about.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I want to get into two questions that I ask all my guests: what their favorite color is, and one word to describe yourself. You gave me the color blue. Why blue? And what does colors mean to you, Mark?
I'm wearing a blue shirt. Can you see?
I can.
I got blue eyes. Okay. That's why I just the blue. It's the sun. I mean, it's the sky. It's hope. It's good weather. That's why I like blue.
I like that. Good weather. Good weather for a good conversation. And you gave me the word reflective to describe yourself as an individual. So why that word?
I think it goes back to the reason you asked me what T is what kind of legacy you're going to leave. So we got to be reflective. Yeah, I'm not proud of what I was like when I was 20s and 30s and 40s, because my generation, we just wanted to get ahead. We just wanted to make sure an impact. So we worked hard. We may have neglected our kids, where maybe now as grandparents we can make up for that, because that was what we were doing. And that's a generalization, but I'll talk about me personally. So I can reflect back and say, I don't want that thing. maybe I'm overcompensating for that as a grandparent to make sure that my grandkids don't have to go through that. Because that puts a lot of stress on the family when you're out there working as hard as you can, trying to get ahead. And so you gotta balance your priorities. So that's why I came up with that.
Well, I like it, and I like the way that you reflection is really big because we need to really look back and say, where do I need to change? Where do I want to improve? Where can I step up? Uh, we have a couple questions here. Where can everyone get your books? First, the Walmart book, and then the child's book.
You can buy them all on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. They're both on those books, on those platforms. Or you can come to my site, it's grampsjeffrey.com, or I don't want to turn 3.com with the numeral 3. So you can follow through that too. But Amazon is the world now, so just go on to Amazon.
And what's your final message to everybody out there today?
Keep in mind that when you love, you will teach others to love. It goes back to teaching. So make sure, especially at our age, we need to show our love. When we were younger, we may not have done that, but we need to show our love because we are teaching others how to love. And if it goes back, go back to how be nice to someone else today. If we can get that message across by showing love, and teaching others how to love, this will be a better world.
And what would you like people to know about baby boomers?
Just that it's a lot of fun. And, if you've got things to contribute, let us know. But we just want to be a place where you can come and spend time. I had heard from one of the people on the site about last week. She says, I was on your site for 3 hours. She says, I came in to listen to one podcast. And then I saw something else that I thought was interesting. Then I read another article. She says, before I know it, I was there for 3 hours. Is that good or bad? I think it's great. But that's what we want. Come onto the site, learn something new, contribute something new. And that's what it's all about. That's our legacy.
And if anybody wanted to collaborate with you, how could they do that, Mark?
At the top of the site, it says contribute. Contact information, just click on that and follow the links.
Well, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure having you this morning and sitting and having tea, leaving a legacy, because that's what I'm working on, is leaving a legacy of tea. So my grandkids can say, oh my God, my grandma had an interview with this person and that person. And oh wow, that's interesting. We have to really have those open conversations, bring something different to the table and open some doors, get the mind going, get the imagination going, read a book, do the dishes with your grandkids, do some recipes, get involved. Let's start bonding. Let's change that from 1 out of 3 to 3 out of 3. Let's start being better grandparents. Let's start stepping up and getting involved. If we want to make a difference and we want to make a change in the world, we really just got to start being the example. So I really want to thank you, Mark, for joining me today on Teatime. I will be back at 3 p.m. with Dan Hank. He'll be talking about his personal life story. He's also a tattoo artist, well known in the United States. And then we're going to be jumping into a personal story with culture beliefs with Yasmin Azar, and she'll be coming in and talking about Muslim and how she had to overcome all of the beliefs that are in her country in Sri Lanka. So we're going to be jumping all over to different countries. We're going to be sharing some different teas, and we're going to be making a difference together, because that's what we do, is we spread the TEA. If you'd like to know more about Miss Liz, you can check out my website at www.misslizsteatime. If you'd like to know more about Mark, you can check him out at babyboomers.org. That is BABMOOMER.org. And you can check him out with his I Don't Want to Turn 3 website as well. And you can also check him out on Gramps Jeffrey's website. There is a lot of information. I guarantee you'll find something for everyone on Baby Boomers. So I encourage everybody to jump over there, check them out, check out the other podcasts, check out the articles, and there's some really good things. And check out the pickleball, because I'm going to be checking it out, because I got to get ready for pickleball. I'm almost at 50. I'm only 4.5 months away from 50. I'll be turning the big 50. So I really want to get into that pickleball, because Jeffrey Razi, he was a guest. He was on a couple times and he really got me into there. So check out all of these incredible tea times on Miss Liz's YouTube channel. Give it a quick subscribe. ring that little bell and you'll be notified every time we're live. Again, Marc, thank you so much for joining me on Tea Time. And I will see everybody at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the second Tea Time.
Thank you.